You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That was certainly an interesting way to end a bitter rivalry game, but I don't know how I feel about it, which is why we are live on YouTube here for the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Richie Bradshaw. I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. Thank you guys for tuning in. Drop a comment, leave a like, share the live. We are going to be here and we are going to have some interesting, if not difficult, conversations about the Sun Devils basketball team, because that was one of the performances of all time for Arizona State Sun Devils basketball. And I think we'll go ahead and start there with just the performance of this game, because this was a frustrating loss, man. Like, once again, and like the epitome of this season, ASU just plays such close, tight basketball, and they make you think that they're going to be able to pull it off, and they kind of get your hopes up, and then within the last 5 minutes of regulation, it just gets away from them. And that's exactly what happened in this game, is they were playing U of A super tough. I mean, this was never more than an 8-point game for the first 35 minutes of game time, something like that. There was no definitive lead for one team or the other before the end. ASU lost by 9 points, and it felt like they got beat by so much more than that. It's just the point where we're at right now with Sun Devils basketball. Is it's like even these close losses feel like big losses. They're not able to close out games. And it's very different, right? It's very different from when the football team wasn't able to close out games. One of the biggest differences, obviously, was ASU was still winning those games that they didn't close out. The difference in those two games, or those two sports rather, is that the basketball team is not finishing games because they are not doing the little things right. The football team wasn't finishing games because they let their foot off of the gas. That's the difference between what's happening on the gridiron versus what's happening on the hardwood. And it's a huge problem for the Sun Devils right now. And it's what we have seen this year, is that they just can't finish these games. I mean, if we look at their schedule, there's a lot of games that ASU probably should have won, or at least would have been way closer than it ended up being. Baylor went to overtime. I thought they should have won that for sure. I think they should have beat UCF. They definitely should have beat Cincinnati. They had Iowa State on the ropes. That's 4 games right there. If you want to include today's game, that's 5 games that ASU let slip through their fingers. You go from 12-9 to 17-4. You also shoot up to a 8-2 conference record, and you're basically a lock to go to the tournament at that point. And you'd be right at the top of the conference, or darn near close to it. It's just frustrating because you're in these games and you're right there, but it's not good enough. And it's like that dollar bill that's dangling out over you from the State Farm commercial. Oh, you almost got it. You got to be quicker than that. That's where we're at with ASU basketball right now. And things are not about to get any easier. On Tuesday, they're hosting Kansas State. Going into today, K-State had not won a true road game. Well, they got to win today, and they got it in blowout fashion. They took down Iowa State in Ames by 19 points. Yeah, suddenly I'm not so confident about playing the Wildcats. You got Oklahoma State. Who knows? Texas Tech is ranked. You have to play them twice. You still have Arizona on your schedule once, and that one's going to be in Tempe. You got to face BYU again. You have to play Houston, who's number 6. There are way too many games here that don't instill the confidence in me that they can turn this around. The last time we had talked about this team, one of the things we said is they pretty much got to win 8 of their last 12 games if they're going to find a way to survive. Well, they went 1-1 this past week. That's not a great start. And again, I don't know how many wins I see on here. I'm not saying ASU is going to lose out. I would be surprised if ASU lost their last, 2, 4, 6, 10 games. I would be stunned if ASU lost the last 10 games and finished the season 12-19. It would be an utter disappointment as well, considering the talent that was on this team this season. Like, this should have been one of the better Bobby Hurley teams. And it does feel like it is one of the better Bobby Hurley teams, but they're not finishing games right now. And you have to be able to do that. By the way, they were really close with Gonzaga too, way early in the season, but they weren't able to hold on at the end of the game. Man, feels like we've seen that a lot this year, probably because we have. They just aren't capable of closing these games out. And that's where they're getting killed the most. Let's take a look at today's game. And we'll get into the drama and everything in just a little bit. I want to hear your guys' opinions on the drama that unfolded. That's pretty much how we're going to end this live. Let's go ahead and talk about this game, though. Neither of these teams was shooting very well. U of A ends up shooting 37.1% from the field, 33.3% from deep. To put that in perspective, ASU shot 36.8% from the field, a 0.3% difference, and 35.3% from deep, a 2% difference. ASU was shooting better, and what's crazy is their shot selection, once again, was very frustrating. There were times where they were just jacking up threes, and it's like, we don't need to be doing this. I don't need everybody shooting threes. Jaden Quaintance, I love you to pieces, man. For the love of all that is holy, please stop shooting threes. Like, it's at a point where it's like, I don't even want to see it once a game. Like, I see him shoot a three and I just get pissed off because it's like, well, that was a wasted possession. They're pointless. He's made what? A single 3-point this year, and he's probably close to 10 attempts at this point. Like, it's not there, Jaden. I love you to pieces. Maybe it'll be there next year. But right now, it's not there, and it's a wasted possession for the team. The rest of the guys, all things considered, they were solid shooting threes. BJ was 4 of 10. We'll have a lot to talk about with BJ Freeman. 4 of 10 from deep, though. Pretty reliable. Adam Miller dominated once again from deep, 3 of 5. Josan Sanin, clearly still not 100%. He was 4 of 9 from the field, but it was only 1 of 5 from deep. And he makes his living as a deep ball shooter, or at least that's the way it was early in the season. And it's just not there right now. Clearly he's not 100%, or there's just some kind of dramatic drop off. I really think that he needs to come back for another year of college. And unfortunately, I don't know if ASU is the place for him to do that, but he's declared for the draft already. He hasn't signed anything officially to leave. I really think that he needs another year of college basketball to have a much more consistent season, because this year was not any form of consistent for him. Bashir Jihad, I thought he was fine. I have highlighted him as the best player on the team this year. I'm not walking that back, but I think there's definitely a lot of pushback that I can give on that, because he turns the ball over a lot. Now, in fairness, he did not turn the ball over today. We'll talk about turnovers here too, because that was a crazy stat for ASU. But in previous games, he turns the ball over a lot. He's averaging like 3 turnovers a game, but he's a good shooter and had 14 points, which was 3rd highest on the team. He was also 5 of 17 from the field. A lot of his shots were just short. And that's another thing we need to talk about. Man, there's a lot of stuff. ASU has been running their small ball, man, and it's fun, it's exciting, but then you go against a team like U of A that's just size and depth. And it's like, yeah, I don't know how to contend with that. They were doubling Jaden Quaintance underneath the rim, and there's nothing he can do. Like, as big and as strong as he is, when you've got 2 guys that are equally as big, if not even taller than him, there's not much that JQ is able to do at that point. He's outmatched by a literal number standpoint, and nobody else on this team is able to match up. they added size. Bashir Jihad is not a small dude, but he's not nearly enough for what ASU needs. And you saw that today because he's trying to put these shots up and he's having to overcorrect the arc of his throws because these guys are so tall and they're putting their hands up to block these shots and everything. There's not much that he can do or that anyone can do. It's one of the things that led to a loss for ASU. They had more size out there. I think this game might have gone a little bit differently. Turnovers. I want to talk about turnovers. ASU, who is averaging double-digit turnovers a game, turned the ball over 11 times. As crazy as it sounds, that was a win for ASU. They only had 4 turnovers in the first half. And in the first half, it was a 1-point game after the first 20 minutes. And you're like, holy cow, ASU might be in this. Proceeded to turn it over 7 times in the next half. But you know who was way worse than ASU was U of A. 13 turnovers for U of A. And it was sloppy basketball, man. Like it was, I feel like if I was a U of A fan, I would have just been really pissed off at some point in time of just like, can we have a possession where we're literally not dribbling it off our feet and out of bounds or trying to inbound the ball and legitimately overthrowing a 6'8", 6'10" guy and it goes out of bounds, or just bad dribbling that leads to the ball getting poked out. Like there was so much wrong with what U of A was doing with their ball handling in this game. And ASU, I thought they did a fine job capitalizing on it. There was a lot left on the court for ASU, in my opinion. And they got eaten up in the paint. And that was, once again, something else that ASU just got crushed by. They were out rebounding in this game, and this was ugly. 52-38. If you think that's an ugly stat, then let me tell you that U of A had 18 offensive rebounds. Second chances, third chances, sometimes fourth chances. I don't get it. This has been a consistent problem for years now. And the whole reason you brought in the size this offseason was so you could help box guys out. Bobby Hurley talked about this in postgame, and quite frankly, I don't know how much I agree with his perception of it. And he's saying that one of the reasons they are getting boxed out so much is he feels like guys are underneath the rim. They're pushing his guys out of the way. He compared it to a moving screen. I'm not going to pretend I know more than Bobby Hurley by any stretch of the imagination, but I definitely feel like that's just not accurate to what's actually going on. What you need to do is you need to teach these guys how to box out because they're just not doing it. And again, you brought in the size this offseason, so I'm trying to figure out why I'm not seeing guys box out more. Why am I not seeing the dudes who are 6'8" to 7 feet tall that are just dominating the court? We've only recently seen it with guys like Jaden Quaintance, and Sean Phillips the last couple of games is playing up to his size potential. And with those two guys being as physically dominating and intimidating as they are, I would hope that they're able to do that. But the rest of this team, Frankie Collins was your leading rebounder last year at 6'1". He was one of the few guys who could go up and rebound consistently. We're just not doing that this year. There's guys who can. Like Jihad had 7 rebounds today. I thought that was fine. I thought that was solid. It was quality. But there's just so much work to be done, man. ASU has so much work that they need to get figured out right now. Of all of the U of A players, anyone who played at least 20 minutes on the court had 4 rebounds or more. That's bad, man. Because for ASU, now granted they're shorthanded and everything, which would lead to guys that are forced to do things like Jaden Quaintance, 8 rebounds, Bashir Jihad, 7 rebounds. After that, 3 from Freeman, 1 from Mason. We got to talk about Alston Mason, man. He's got to get it. He's got to get it together. Like, you can run the point so well, but if you're not contributing scoring, that's a problem. Adam Miller had 4 rebounds, but you know what? Right now, Adam Miller's rebounding is not even close to being one of my biggest concerns. When he's shooting the way he is, yeah, he can not rebound for all I care. If he's consistently putting up 15 plus points a game and keeping ASU in these games neck and neck, and especially being as dominant as he is from threes right now, yeah, I don't need Adam Miller to be the guy that steps up to be the rebounder. I need a lot of other guys to be able to do that. ASU's shorthanded. I get it. It's a really big deal, and it's something that has 100% impacted this season. Like, ASU clearly has not been their best selves because you've got so many guys that just aren't on the court right now. They had a whopping 7 players that saw minutes today. U of A had 9 players. One of them only saw 4 minutes, but ASU's having to do this out of necessity. Every single one of their starters saw over 30 minutes. Meanwhile, for U of A, Caleb Love played 39 minutes. Jaden Bradley played 34. No one else on the team after KJ Lewis, 27 minutes or less. They were just able to get more guys out there. They stayed fresh that way. And it's something that ASU can't do right now. And I understand it's not in their control, but this is also a recruiting thing. ASU just had one of their best recruiting classes, and yet we're not getting enough out of the roster. Like, I don't understand it. I can't sit here and listen to we're super injured all day long. At some point, the rest of the roster needs to be able to step up, and certainly the coaching needs to be able to overcome this. The coaching has by far been the biggest problem for this team this year, because the execution on the floor, there's been times where ASU is playing very, very good, and there's been times where ASU is playing really, really bad. And that, to me, has a lot more to do with what's going on behind the guy who's holding a clipboard and untying his tie when he gets pissed off. They got a lot of stuff to figure out. But this is another frustrating loss. All right. Let's have some fun. Thank you all. There's quite a few you guys in the live right now. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Hit a like, subscribe if you haven't already, but drop a comment right now because I want your guys' thoughts on BJ Freeman and Bobby Hurley. I'm going to start with Carl Hammerdorfer, who actually left this comment at 4:24. It was before we even got started. He wanted to make sure that he got his comment out there. Carl, I don't know if you're still in here, but this is a great place to start, and that's that Hurley is a classless hothead. Is there any denying that at this point? We've always known he's a hothead. We've always known that he's a screamer and he's passionate is the way that we want to describe it, but it's wearing thin, man. And it's at a point where I just don't know if that's good enough for me. Is this passionate coach who fights for his players and this, that, and the other. And it's like, well, I'm not getting results. I'm not getting wins. We're not going to the tournament. We're not consistently competing in our own conference. It's just not good enough right now. And post-game was crazy. The one thing I want to say with Hurley, I don't respect the decision to leave the court, not shake hands, handshake with Tommy Lloyd or anything like that. But I understand why he did it. Because tensions were flaring at the end of that game. It wasn't just BJ Freeman going at Caleb Love. There was a lot of chatter from both benches. I know that Bobby made it seem like it was just U of A contributing. And I would love to believe that. I would love to believe that as an ASU fan that, oh, yeah, it's all U of A. All of them are the worst. That's not true. ASU is just as chirpy. The fans there are definitely chirpy. The U of A fans are chirpy. Everyone is chirping. They're getting on each other's nerves. Like, it's just part of sports. It's even more so when you are dealing with your rivals, your most hated rivals. Yeah, everyone's going to be chirping at each other. I can agree with Hurley on this. He said that he felt like it should have been policed better by the officiating. Yep, totally good with that. But that also goes for your team. Because you can't look me in the eye and say that ASU was completely dead silent on the bleachers the whole time. calling U of A classless the way that Hurley did feels rich, because deciding to not shake hands in the most basic form of sportsmanship, that is exactly what BC is saying. BC, how you doing, man? Thanks as always for tuning in. It's a bad look. It is a very, very, very bad look. That is not what you want to be the face of your program, is someone who walks off the court and doesn't shake hands. Kenny Dillingham rallied his guys who were walking to the locker room at the end of the Peach Bowl when they lost to Texas. Some of the guys were walking off, and Kenny said, no, get your you-know-what back here. This is sportsmanship. You shake their hands. You congratulate them, whatever. You do not walk off this field. That's not what we're about. That's awesome that Kenny's doing that, but now Bobby's doing that. And again, I understand why he did it, because the last thing you need is one of these kids, U of A or Arizona State, to say something and spark a fight and benches clear, or God forbid the fans and the students get involved. Like, that was a powder keg at that point in time going on in, I almost said Desert Financial. Wait, is it? It is Desert Financial. It used to be Wells Fargo. Or do I have it backwards? I don't know. It's one of the banks. But I understand that. Do I respect it? No, not really, because that's just a part of playing sports. You need to be able to have that. It's fundamentals, it's character, it's just being a human being. And if you can't do that, then you shouldn't be out there. I understand. I really, truly do. But that doesn't mean I agree with it. BJ Freeman. I got some thoughts on that. I am not a Caleb Love fan. I don't have any personal vendetta against him. I'm just not a fan. I don't know. Like, do I have a good reason? I don't think so. I just don't like him. Couldn't tell you why. He's never done anything to my family. He's never said anything mean to my face. I just don't like Caleb Love. And I certainly think he's an overrated player. When he's on, but I mean, there's a reason why U of A has not been able to advance with Caleb Love and his inconsistencies. And there's a reason why U of A fans are so split down the middle with him. He was definitely chirping at BJ. BJ was definitely chirping at Caleb Love. Very end of the game, it's over, man. This game is over. There is nothing left that needs to be said, nothing that should have been said. Game is over. This would be the same thing if ASU was going to win 81-72 over U of A. Game is over. You do not talk. So I don't know who started it. I don't know if Caleb said something. I don't know if BJ said something. I do know the announcers had mentioned, if you were doing some lip reading, that it looked like someone said, like, get back on the bench or something from a U of A player. I don't remember if it was Caleb Love or someone else, but it was very heated tension. So I don't know if Caleb started it. I don't know if BJ started it. But from both parties' perspectives, and from no matter who was going to win or lose the game, it's done. It needs to stop. It needs to stop. I love passionate rivalries. I love when tensions get flared up. I even like a little bit of pushing and shoving and stuff like that. I'm totally about it. But let it be in the middle of the game, during the passion, not at the end where you look like a sore loser, because that's exactly what it looked like. That's exactly what it looked like, was Arizona State's going to lose this game, and it really sucks, and we played really hard and all that good stuff, but you don't need to instigate anything. And again, maybe Caleb is the one who instigates, but you know what? You leave that to the ref. You leave it to one of the three zebras on the court to be able to assess a tech, because that happened. That happened. I think it was KJ Lewis was issued a tech because he was talking that smack. Like, they will do what they need to when it comes to techs and flagrants and everything like that. Do they call everything? No. There was a lot of missed calls in this game. Some that cost ASU points, some that cost U of A points, whatever. There's bad calls in every game. But when it comes to throwing out techs and flagrants, oh man, refs love it. Oh, they love it. Bobby gets a tech a game, baby. They love throwing out techs. If you really think that Caleb Love was not going to get teed up for saying something that was said between him and BJ, as long as it's an earshot, right? Refs down there, I lean into your ear and call you a little girl, but with different verbiage. Yeah, I'm probably not going to get teed up. But if Blue is right there and I'm saying that stuff, I'm going to get teed up. They will take care of it. They love doing it. Refs love to make it about them. Ooh, I can call flagrant here? Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, let me sit in front of the desk and review it where this camera is straight at my face. Ooh, I would love to be the main character. Yeah, that's refs for you. Every single one of them. So let them take care of it. Like I said, I love chippiness. I don't mind some pushing and shoving. I don't mind barrel chesting up against each other and talking that ish. I don't mind that at all. I love it. I think it's great for sports to have that passion, that energy, and honestly, that hatred for another team. But there's a time and a place. And when you are in the waning seconds of the game and you're guaranteed to lose, that's not the time to do it. It wouldn't have been the time to do it if U of A was in the same spot. Just don't do it. Bad luck. Bad luck on BJ. Bad luck on Caleb for whatever he said. There's a reason they both were ejected from the game. I don't know what happens moving forward. I can't imagine anything significant, if anything at all happens. Very, very unfortunate way to end the game, though. That is the way that everyone will remember this game, too. They won't remember that ASU hung around. They won't remember that ASU was playing better defense than U of A throughout the game, or that ASU was shooting better than U of A. Nope. What they're going to remember is the meltdown at the very end, where BJ Freeman headbutted Caleb, where Caleb was talking to smack, the two were ejected, and then Bobby Hurley took his team off the court. He took the team off the court before the game ended, by the way. There was a difference of like 0.5 seconds on the shot clock and the game clock. So ASU still had to inbound it, and all their players are in the locker room. Yeah, that's an even worse look. You left the court before the game was over? That's even worse, man. That's even worse. I understand the logic that he presented. I do think there was absolutely some pettiness there. That's my problem with it. Hit me up in the comments. What do you guys think? We're going to start wrapping this up here. Edgar Ortiz, is Bobby done after this year? That is going to be a very, very heated topic. Probably for the next 2 months, honestly. And it's something that we'll definitely talk about on the show. I'll make time for it next week. Monday, I want to talk about Nebraska deciding to cancel their spring ball game. And I want to take a look at how ASU should go about that, if they should also cancel their game or if they should not let it affect them. That's Monday's conversation. Tuesday, pending any breaking news, that might be our Bobby Hurley episode where we sit down and we discuss, hey, is this it? Is this the time to move on? I don't think he should. How am I trying to word this? He shouldn't be guaranteed to return by any stretch of the imagination. My thing is, and I know it's a terrible argument, is who are you going to get? And I understand like that's wishy-washy. That's terrible logic, Richie. How could you even say that? I truly don't know. Like ASU, I've said before, man, the expectations for ASU basketball should be to go to the tournament more often than not. Win a game. We're not asking for a lot here. We don't have a national championship in basketball, and quite frankly, we're not going to get one anytime soon. Our best chance probably would have been this year. They're not going to go to the tournament. They're not NIT right now. This is just a bad basketball team, but it starts with the coaching. And I think that's the direction that we need to go right now is is it even worth sticking around with Bobby Hurley? The unfortunate thing is if Bobby is gone, I think you can say goodbye to this roster. Some people may not think that's a bad thing, and then I remind you that you probably lose Quaintance, you probably lose Sannon, and there's a really, really, really good chance that like Ali might not be back. You could rebuild through the portal, but we've done that every year. That's one of the problems that ASU has had with this basketball program. It's a new roster every single year. It's very hard for fans to get invested in a team that is consistently having new faces. How am I supposed to find a favorite player when it's a different lineup every year? They had 2 returners from last year, Adam Miller and Sean Phillips. Prior to that, it was Frankie Collins, and that was it. Before that, it was Kamani Lawrence and a handful of other guys. Like, this is just a team that consistently is shuffling the roster, and it's not fun. No one's getting invested, quite like when we had Trey Holder and we had Cody Justice in the very beginning of the Bobby Hurley days. We don't have those guys. Now, it's one thing if you're bringing in guys that are first-round picks and they just leave year after year. It's another thing when you are supposed to be a middle-of-the-pack program, and you should have these guys for 2, 3, 4 years. And it's just not the case. Tacking through the transfer portal, I love it, but they're bringing in graduate players. Yeah, Freeman, Mason, and Jihad are all going to be gone after this year. Your 3 most prized possession transfers are all going to be gone. Adam Miller is out of eligibility. That's 4 of your 5 starters. Who knows what happens with Quaintance? Who knows what happens with Sannon? Sean Phillips has 1 more year as far as I know. Hopefully he would return. But again, you're facing a complete rebuild for the basketball program, and there's not as high an upside as what there is with football. Yeah, you just went through a full rebuild with football with Kenny Dillingham. But you know what the difference was? Is you got the right coach who knew how to get the most out of this program. I don't know who's out there that can do that for ASU, especially because what is the most to get out of this program? I don't know. There's just not much at Arizona State University when it comes to the basketball program that has these coaches screaming and running as fast as they can to a job opening. That's why Bobby Hurley has been here 10 years. He's not at this program for 10 years with middling success if we know that we can do better. And we don't. We don't know that we can do better. Hence why he's still here. Will he be here next year? I need some time to think about it. My reaction right now, as of 5:33 p.m. on February 1st, Saturday, February 1st, 2025, as we wind this down right now, I would say no, and I think he needs to go. And yeah, you're probably going to go in the pooper, and you're going to be there for a little while, unless you somehow just absolutely nail your hire. I don't think that's going to happen. Maybe I'm a Debbie Downer. I want to know what you guys think. By the way, if you are re-listening to this, I appreciate you guys. Still feel free to leave a comment. I still reply to all my comments on YouTube. Wherever you're getting your podcast, though, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Really good turnout today. A lot of fun with you guys. We will be back again on Monday. Like I said, we have got to talk about Nebraska canceling their spring game. Should ASU do the same? Is this a trend that's happening for college football? We'll talk about it on Monday. So I'll see you guys there. Enjoy the rest of your night. Until then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun.